everything was different from the beginning with her pregnancy. And I was told one time that God gives us different pregnancies. Like we carry each child differently to remind us that each of our kids are going to have different personalities. And that's just something that has stuck with me ever since.
Are you done with being that pregnant or postpartum mom in the gym who is always stuck on the sidelines feeling horrible? Saying, how come no one ever told me this? Are you ready to finally say no to a mom life filled with excess weight, injury, overwhelm, and fatigue? Then help is here. Welcome to the Strong Moms Fitness Podcast, where we dive deep into the information you need to be the strongest woman in and out of the gym, even if you are a mom. If you are done going through your pregnancy or postpartum fitness journey clueless and unprepared, if you are ready to commit and say yes to being that badass fit mom who is shredded and stronger than before the baby, well, listen up. Because this is where we talk about all of the things your doctor or trainer never told you about, so that you can achieve the body you want and take your athletic strength and performance to the next level. Get ready, because here's your host, Daisy Bravo.
Well, hello. Welcome to the Strong Moms Fitness Podcast. I hope that you're having an amazing day, an amazing week, and you are in for a treat today. My guest today is the amazing Nicole Cooke, and she is going to share with us her birth story. Now, Nicole is an Alabama girl, a wife, and a busy mother of 4. She's also a CrossFit trainer and a Whole30 coach. I don't want to take up any more time rambling, and I really want to jump into her story. So, welcome today, Nicole. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Strong Moms Fitness Podcast. It's so amazing to chat with you. I want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing your personal story with us on the podcast today. Now, before we get into your incredible birth story, I would love for you to share just a little bit of a background about you, your motherhood journey, and your background when it comes to health and fitness.
Thanks for having me and allowing me to share my story. So I am a mom of 4. My oldest is 6, and then I have our daughter is 5, and then we have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And I have been a CrossFitter since 2014. So what is that, 5 years? Going on 6 years now. My husband and I are both CrossFit L1 trainers, and I'm actually a CrossFit Kids trainer, currently not affiliated anywhere. We just work out of our garage right now. So I'm also a Whole30 certified coach and a full-time stay-at-home mom.
Thank you. That's awesome. I'm a lover of CrossFit, so I'm really excited to talk about your fitness journey after baby and how you got back into CrossFit after baby. So hold on to that thought for a little bit later. But first, I don't really want to waste any more time. I want for you to go into your story and just share with us whatever you're comfortable with when it comes to your birth story. And I want you to know that this is a safe space, and your story, I believe, is going to be so valuable for so many of our listeners, especially for our listeners that are super type A. They've got a plan, they're going to follow it, they're going to carry it out, and they don't have a plan B, or they can't even conceive of a plan B or something that won't go as planned. So I really want to hear your story and have you share it with our ladies and our listeners.
So like I said, I'm a mom of 4. And my first 3 babies I was induced with all 3 of my first children. I was actually induced with all 4 of them. My first 3 kids were textbook perfect vaginal deliveries. They were all born within 14 minutes of each other, 2:12, 2:10, and 1:58. I was in labor for probably about 5 hours for all 3 of them. So the last baby, She was born in 2019, August 29th of 2019. And everything was different from the beginning with her pregnancy. And I was told one time that God gives us different pregnancies. Like we carry each child differently to remind us that each of our kids are going to have different personalities. And that's just something that has stuck with me ever since I was told that with my second child. So everything was just weird from the beginning. I was really sick, lots of different pain, lots of swelling, all the things that I didn't go through with my other kids during their pregnancy. So roll to birthday, and same induced plan, go in that morning. And we sat in the waiting room for an hour and a half. We'd never had to do that before. They didn't have any rooms available. And so we finally got called back for a room, and it took like 4 times for them to stick me for my IV. That was also new and never had that problem before. They finally got the IV in and began to labor me all day. I labored and labored and labored. Wasn't really seeing any movement, no quick dilation or anything up to my Pitocin. So it's time I started having more contractions, time to have my epidural. Well, my epidural was placed too deep. It was placed into my subdural. I've never had that happen before. And it's ironic because when I first had an epidural with my first child, I was terrified. I'm a science background and went to nursing school, didn't finish nursing school. But so I know a lot about the spine, and it's always terrified me to have a needle stuck into my spine. Well, this time it actually went too deep. And so my heart rate dropped to 45. They had to administer oxygen. My eyes closed. I could not open my eyes. I lost feeling in my hands. I couldn't grip anything. My husband was there with me. He said that whole process probably lasted about 10 minutes. To me, it felt like I was walking off this earth. I felt like I could hear, and it was like I was in a tunnel, like walking away. And they were able to reverse it. And then they gave me another epidural after that. So my body was just pumped with a whole bunch of fluid. My doctor at the time said that the baby was fine the entire time. He was watching the baby on the monitor. She was fine. So after that, my epidural took. It was fine from there on out, but I went through a little bit of trauma there. So carried on, labored. And the nurse came in and said, I'm going to check you. She said I was only 7 centimeters dilated and told me she wanted me to push. To me, that was odd because I wasn't used to pushing until I was fully dilated, fully effaced. And so she looked at me funny and she said, I think, she had this awful look on her face. And I was concerned. My husband was concerned. And she said, I think I feel butt and vagina when I'm checking you. And she called in for an ultrasound, and another nurse came in and she ultrasounded my belly, and her face just went completely blank too. And I was like, what is happening? What is going on? This is not normal. Something's wrong. And she said, I think she's breached. She's flipped while you were in labor, is what they told me. And she said, we're going to have to roll you back for emergency C-section. And so this was new to me. I'd had friends who had been rolled back to emergency C-section before, and they had just had an epidural, and they were able to feel their doctor cutting them open. And so my immediate fear went there, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrifying. I'm going to be able to feel them cutting me open. They asked me in the middle of all that, do you want to have your tubes tied? And I consented. They probably shouldn't have asked me during that time. But we had already planned. This was our last baby. My husband had already scheduled to get a vasectomy 3 weeks later. It was already on the books. And I was like, okay, fine. You're going to have to cut me open. My doctor said that we could try and birth her vaginally since I had 3 vaginal births before. But he said there could be a risk. And as soon as he said the word risk, I was like, no, we're not risking my child. That's not okay. So they rushed me back to have emergency C-section. And this was, like I said, all new to me. And I didn't have the normal spinal that they would give for C-section. So I just had my epidural. And so I couldn't feel the cutting me open, but I could feel them like moving around inside of me. It was a very weird feeling. And my husband said they pulled her out, and when they pulled her out, her cord was wrapped twice around her neck. So we made the right decision in having a C-section and not trying to birth her vaginally. And they had to knock me out on the table because I was literally freaking out. I was so scared. I was so just scared. It was a weird feeling. It was cold. My arms were going numb again. I thought that I wasn't going to be able to hold her because I thought all that was going to happen again. That happened with the epidural. And so they had to knock me out. And I didn't get to see her for like an hour after that. So that's her birth story. That's our birth story, and very, very different from my other 3 perfect vaginal deliveries.
Nicole, you're no doubt a strong mom. 4 kids, that is huge right there. And to have that 4th one, you think you have it in the bag, and things don't really go as planned or as they
Yeah.
had before. So were you a little scared? Like what are you feeling when you're going through all of this? Like what's going on in your mind?
It To be honest, that this wasn't right, like that something's wrong. It was scary. It was really scary. And I don't think enough women talk about the things that go wrong during labor. It's just not a common thing. You always hear about the great and wonderful everything. Everybody's always about the baby, not about the mom. I mean, it was just a scary time. It was a really scary time. It was very traumatic and scary.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like that. Now, I want to ask you, now that it's all over and you're looking back, what's your takeaway from this, and what have you learned from this, or how have you grown from this trauma?
Well, I'm a Christian. I'm a believer, and I believe that God was in that room with me and my daughter, and 100% had His hand with us. Her middle name is Grace, so I gave myself a lot of grace during her pregnancy, gave myself a lot of grace during her birth, and have given myself a lot of grace returning back into fitness and working out and searching for answers because my body really wasn't normal after her birth. And I ended up with a doctor in Nashville, a functional medicine doctor, to try and help me after a year. I still couldn't wear my wedding rings, and I just tied all that back to the trauma from her birth that my body went through with all the stuff that my body was pumped with. And I guess just to not stop to search for answers, to always search, just continue searching until you have an answer. That's kind of my takeaway with what has happened and what we've been through.
Yeah, and I think that's an important take home for the women that are listening, that if a doctor tells you, no, it's not possible, or this is just how it is, I really do like to encourage, everyone to go out there that maybe there is another way,
Yes.
and not to give up or to get discouraged just because one person had told you that this is going to be your fate. So I really like
Yeah.
that's an amazing message to share. And I really respect your Christian values with that. Now, did you need any sort of support afterwards? Did you need to seek counsel from your religious, background, or did you need to seek out any sort of mental health? And I know a lot of women, especially women, have postpartum depression. A lot of it goes unvoiced, and a lot of women just hide behind their new life, their baby, all the things that they have to do, and sometimes hide behind closed doors. Did you find that you needed any counsel when it came to the aftermath of the trauma?
So thankfully, no, I did not deal with any postpartum depression. And I know I'm probably one of a few. I mean, trauma is a really big thing. And normally, postpartum depression and trauma go hand in hand, or trauma actually and postpartum depression go hand in hand. I will say that, so our bond, my daughter and I was gifted with an incredible bond with her. She still to this day prefers to go to me over her dad. And I really think that I don't know if it's because she sent something or if that's just what I was gifted. But having that bond with her made a huge difference for me and almost in a way healed me from that trauma that we endured together, because I mean it really was, she was cut out of my belly, my abdomen was cut open. I mean, I just, to me that wasn't a normal thing, because I know what it was supposed to be like. I feel like I was robbed of that special time that you get when you deliver vaginally. They give the baby to you directly and you get to hold the baby for, I don't know, like it feels like forever that you're in that room. And I was robbed of that. But because our bond is so incredibly strong, I didn't need any counseling at all. And I also tie that back to my faith. I really feel like God healed me in a sense. I think for me it was more of figuring out what is going on with my body after I had her. Like, why can't I wear my wedding rings? I've not been able to wear my wedding rings for a year and a half now. What is happening? That's not normal. If you can't wear your wedding rings after a birth, that is not normal. Find out, try and find answers until you figure it out. So I finally was able to put my rings back on in November of this past year. So it's just those kinds of things. For me, it was trying to figure out why my body is not the way that it used to be. It was different bouncing back after the trauma that it endured with the other, as opposed to the other kids. When I had my other children, my body bounced back a lot quicker.
Cool. I love that. Of course, we are a fitness show here. I'd love to hear what that looked like for you when you were getting back into fitness after baby and any of the struggles that you experienced.
So I was terrified after having my stomach cut to start back to working out. And so I did some research and I figured out that there's such thing as a pelvic floor physical therapist. And I'm like, what is that? Like, how am I just finding this? I did some research and I found one and I started going, and it just really changed my life, changed my outlook on things, educated me on what we need as women to strengthen our pelvic floor. Like, it's just, I never knew that that's why I leaked when I did double unders. Like, I never knew that. I just thought that was normal. I thought, oh, I've had kids and I'm just going to pee all over myself now because that's what our bodies do after you have kids.
So what are your workouts looking like right now?
We do CrossFit. And here lately, it's been a struggle because it's cold and we work out in our garage and we have 4 kids and we homeschool 2 days a week. I have found myself just really listening more to my body. When I go to do double unders, I can feel when my pelvic floor starts to get weak. And so some days it looks different than other days. Some days I can pound out 50, and then other days I can just do 30 and I have to scale back the reps. It's really just being more in tune to my body and listening to what my body's telling me to do when it comes to my working out. Maybe I don't need to lift as heavy as I used to lift until I feel like those muscles are being more strengthened as far as my pelvic floor goes. When I do pull-ups, I tend to leak. And so that's one of the things that we're going to start working on soon. But yeah, it's very different this time. Whereas with baby number 3, I was so ready to get back into the gym. I probably started working out right at 6 weeks when my doctor cleared me. And it was too soon and I was leaking all over myself and I just didn't know. So I'm grateful for the fact that I ended in a C-section to do the research and to find that information out.
Awesome. So if you were just to run into a random stranger who just had a baby and you had a few minutes to chat with them, what would be your biggest piece of advice when it comes to working out again or starting from basics?
So that's a good question. I would have to say that take it slow. Just because your doctor clears you doesn't mean that your doctor clears you to go and work out. Your doctor's cleared you to be okay physically. Your health is okay. Your health has been cleared, but that doesn't mean that you're cleared to go and work out again. So I would do your research and try and find a pelvic floor PT and just go and do an assessment. The assessment is a starting point, and you can work together with your PT to try and get you back to where you need to be. And that way you're just making sure that you're doing it the right way, as opposed to doing it like me, after my baby number 3, and just itching at the bit to get back in the gym, and probably doing more damage to your system than you really should.
Awesome. I love that. That's what the Strong Moms Fitness is all about. So that's definitely our wheelhouse. We've got a lot of corrective exercise programs for ladies. So I really like that this is starting to become something that's more common, more in the forefront. I'm sure that when you did your certifications, that stuff's not talked about. And a lot of times you hear listen to your body, and a lot of times some women don't understand what, especially if you work out quite avidly and you've worked out forever, and you think how to listen to your body, but it depends. Are you listening to your ego, or are you actually listening to your body that has been injured? So I really love all your tips that you've mentioned, and I appreciate your story. And it's so empowering when a woman is able to come on and give the lowdown, give the truth, the reality, because nothing ever goes as expected or as planned when it comes to this stuff. I would love for you to share with our ladies here how they can connect with you online and what people can expect to see when they go on your website.
I am the Mama Cooke on Instagram, and themamacooke.com is my website. My website is mainly Whole30. I am a Whole30 coach, and I co-coach with another Whole30 coach. We are doing group coaching for Whole30. And then I am also a CrossFit L1 trainer. I'm also in the process of getting my pregnancy and postpartum athleticism certification and my CPT and CNC certifications as well. Hopefully, I will be able to start doing some coaching out of my home, and virtually is my plan to hopefully roll that out later this year.
Very cool. So definitely, ladies, check out that website. And Nicole, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I'm really glad that you've embraced this, and you've really seemed to use this and fuel this for good and for positive. And it really looks like you've got a promising path ahead of you with I'm really, really excited to see what's going to happen for you in the next little bit. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Daisy. I appreciate you having me.
So definitely go and check out Nicole's website at themamacooke with an E on the end.com. And her Instagram is the.mama with one M .cook with an E. And of course, I'm going to link these all in the show notes. Now, if you are a mom who is struggling with leakage, diastasis, prolapse, or if you're just someone that wants to get back to the gym safely and without injury, I want you to check out my website at strongmomsfitness.com/challenge, because on February 22nd, I am running the Fit After Pregnancy Challenge, which is a free challenge that's going to help you recover after baby and get back to the gym safely so that you can put all that fear and anxiety behind you. You are not going to want to miss this. Now, I hope you've learned so much from Nicole and her beautiful birth story. Thanks so much for joining me, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you next time on the Strong Moms Fitness Podcast. Now remember, go subscribe so that you are the first to know as soon as new episodes drop. Also, be sure you don't miss out on your chance to win a free program of your choice from Strong Moms Fitness. All you have to do is leave a 5-star review. Screenshot it before you submit and send it to daisy@strongmomsfitness.com. Your review helps other people find our show. And as a thank you, once a month we choose the review that makes us all warm and tingly inside and award that lucky lady a free program of their choice. So do it now. It could be you. See you next time, you badass mom, you.